Today what we're doing for the air horn on this truck, on the air horn on this truck, somebody before I had the truck actually had just a piece of electrical wire hanging off the lever. And what we're going to do today is go ahead and install a cable. And I've already bought the cable with the hardware. I bought the connectors that we're going to be using. This is one of them. All it is an electrical connector with a little screw on it, and it's going to be going from here, which is this is going to be up there, and then the cable, I've already run it through the lever for the air horn, and then we're just going to go ahead and use that connector to loop it in the hole and bring it down here and crimp it, and then it's just going to come right back here and with a little bit of slack, so I can actually grab a hold of it instead of having to reach clean up at the windshield and trying to grab it. That's what we're doing today. It's going to be a fairly simple thing. I'm just going to I've already put heat shrink on this side, and the reason I'm doing heat shrink is this cable's black, the interior of the truck is black, so it's going to blend in with the truck. And I'm going to put a piece of heat shrink around this after I get this in here and go ahead and crimp that. And I'll show you the crimping. I'm trying to hold GoPro, and so I'm not going to be able to hold it and feed that cable into that connector right there. And I'm going to need both hands up there, so I'm going to be not showing me actually getting it in there, but I mean, it's fairly simple. You just grab the cable, you stick it in the hole, and you just make sure that it doesn't come out. And then I have a Harbor Freight crimper designed for electrical connectors. It's a little dark inside the cab here. I'm trying to move the camera so you can actually see. I mean, it's just a simple video. Like I said, after I get it in there, I'll show you me crimping it, and then I'll show you me cleaning the end of this cable, because it has this black coating on it. And I'm just going to strip it down enough, and after I cut it to length, to be able to get it in the connector. And then I'll go ahead and I'll put heat shrink on as much of this connector as I can, which will be black, so it'll blend in with all this up here at the same time. I'm gonna go ahead and stick that in the hole. Like I mentioned in some of my other videos, if you're not going to use the tool very often, Harbor Freight's just fine. And this crimper that I got is designed for electrical connectors, and it goes up to like 0, and I think it goes down to 14 gauge, AWG 14. And it's just like I said, it's just a crimping set. It comes with many different sizes there, and we're just going to be using this thing to crimp that. I'm going to see if I can set this camera up to where you guys can see me doing this. Yep. Okay, all I'm going to do, I've already got it fed through here. I'm just going to take this crimper and put it over top of this and just start pumping until it actually crushes it onto the cable. I'm going to get it close, and I'm going to make sure the cable's in there real good before I crimp it. Yep, it's in there as good as I can get it. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put this in there and make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here, and just start pumping. It's little hydraulics, and these connectors are just aluminum, so this thing should not have a problem with crimping it. And if you're going to do something like this, you want to make sure you drain all the air. Otherwise, you could be blowing the air horn a lot. Okay, that's as tight as I can get it there. I'm gonna reposition it and try it again. Make sure we get a good crimp. Last thing you want to do is grab a hold of this cable because somebody in a four-wheeler decided to cut you off because they didn't look. They don't know you're there, and you're trying to tell them you're there to keep from hitting them. And you don't want to pull this cable trying to do that and then just have the cable come out. Now the heat shrink I'm going to be using is actually marine heat shrink. So it's actually got glue in it. So it's going to actually help. Oh yeah, that crimped it nice. I don't think that's going to come apart. So the glue inside the heat shrink, don't jab yourself. The heat shrink I'm going to be putting over this will cover all that. Oh yeah, that's not coming out. Okay, I used that heat shrink there, and I'm going to go ahead and heat that up. I just got a little butane torch here that I use. I'm going to heat up this little piece right here, so it's in there nice and good. And then I'm going to take another bigger piece and put over this connector. And I've already gone ahead and found the heat shrink that I'm going to be using, and just put it up here, did a little crude measuring with my thumb, and then I just use wire cutters to cut it. And as you can see, it's blending in pretty nicely because the dash and that is black. So we're just going to put this little piece of heat shrink over this, heat it up the same way I just heated the other heat shrink up, and it should pull down nicely. The only concern I have is this end, which I can always trim a little if it don't pull down where I want it, but it's pulling down nice, real nice. So, oh yeah, that's looking nice. I mean, it's that simple. And like I said, I'm just gonna have it swing down a little bit so this actually misses, like so. Whoops. So you can actually grab a hold of it and go ahead and give it a good yank. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and measure it up to here and cut this so we know how far it needs to be. And then I gotta strip the insulation. I just use a knife, I mean ordinary pocket knife, to go ahead and strip the little bit of the insulation so it'll actually go over this. And once I go ahead and I cut the cable and I strip the insulation off of it, I'll show putting that piece on and putting it up to the roof. Okay, I got the cable trimmed down to where it's actually gonna be pretty good right about there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the connector on the end here. I've already got the little piece of heat shrink that's going to go over the connector. I definitely need to put that on the cable first. So, okay, I'm going to try and do this where you guys can see what I'm doing here. trying to hold the camera, hold the cable and everything at one time. It's a little tricky. Okay, all I'm going to do here is put this connector on. And the reason I'm twisting it in this direction is because that's the way the cable is actually twisted. So you can't, when you cut the cable, it's hard to get the end to stay all nice and tight, so it gets a little braided, spread apart. All the wires get spread apart. Alright, I'm not going to be able to do this like this, so I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down, and then once I get the end on, then I'll go ahead and show it going up on. Okay, alright, I got the cable on here, so now all you do is take a flat bladed screwdriver to tighten it up on there, like so. So it's nice and tight. And like I said, we're going to be putting marine heat shrink on it as an added precaution, so that way it cannot come back off. Now the bad side about that is if I need to actually take it back off, it's going to be a whole lot harder because of the marine heat shrink with the glue in there. But I'd rather deal with that than taking a chance of the thing actually slipping off. Plus it actually, that screw, it won't allow the screw to back out either. And I do this before I put it up there because I don't want to be trying to do this up there at the headliner and catch the whole truck on fire. I don't think that would be a good idea. So we're going to go ahead and do the heat shrink, heat it up, get it all shrunk where it needs to go. Get the end as tight as I can on the cable because it's already on the connector. You don't want to actually heat down as tight as I want, so while it's still hot, I'm just going to take a pair of pliers and help it get down onto the cable so it's nice and glued in there. Okay, now I just have to wait for it to cool off and then just put the screw up through here, put it back into the headliner and tighten it down, and that's the whole thing. Alright, well, if you're watching the video, I appreciate you coming to the channel, and go ahead and subscribe and click that bell so the next video I post, you'll be able to see it. I appreciate you all, and you all come back. Thank you.